Hey, good evening, everybody. It's the evening of Tuesday, October 8th. As you can see up there, this is basically reading off ESPN's bowl predictions or projections as looked at by Mark Skalbach and Brad Edwards after week 6. So basically it's going to say, looking at the bowl projection, ESPN's bowl projections after week 6. Or ESPN's bowl projections after week 6, something like that. But yeah, basically ever since the week started, and mostly ever since the AP poll came out and the BCS poll and all that has come out, Mark Skalbach and Brad Edwards have come out and basically every week have shown given their projections, if not predictions, as of right now, as of this past week in college football, as to who they believe will go to what bowl. So in other words, this is their way of saying, if the season were to end this week, or if it were to end last week, this is where they feel. So these are basically this is where these bowl games, if you will, basically, let me correct myself here. Basically, they're saying that if the season was to end this week, or if the season would have ended this past Saturday, this is where they feel these are the bowl games that they feel certain teams would go to. In other words, they feel that these teams would go to these bowl games. Now, some of the bowl games they agree on with the same matchup, and some of them they agree on with a certain team. But they do differ. So, again, this is just their projections and predictions after this week. In other words, if the season was to end this past weekend, or this upcoming weekend, this is how they feel the college bowl picture would look. BCS included. Yeah, I know that sounds kind of strange. You're thinking, already the bowl projection? Well, you gotta look at it this way. We're halfway through the season, so it only makes common sense. So you already got teams bowl eligible. So it only makes common sense. But this is who they feel if the season was to end as of right now. As of right now, this is who they feel. These are the teams they feel would go to these bowls. The first bowl game is the New Mexico Bowl. And they feel, both agree Arizona would be in it. But both differ on the opponent. Mark Skalbach says New Mexico would be Arizona's opponent, while Brad Edwards says Boise State. Then we got the Idaho Bowl. I'll just call it the Idaho Bowl. Both agree that the matchup will be Northern Illinois' La Tech. Excuse me. Then we get the St. Petersburg Bowl. And they definitely differ on the matchups here. Mark feels it'll be Pittsburgh, Western Michigan. Well, Brad feels it'll be Kent State, East Carolina. Now, both agree on the New Orleans Bowl. Both feel it'll be Marshall and Louisiana Monroe. Now, the Las Vegas Bowl. Both agree Washington will be in it, but differ on opponents. Mark feels it'll be Boise State, while Brad feels it'll be Nevada. Then you got the Hawaii Bowl. And again, they differ on game matchups here. Mark feels it'll be SMU and Fresno State, while Brad feels it'll be Houston, San Diego State. Then you Little Caesars Bowl. Both agree the matchup's probably going to be Ohio, Minnesota. Ohio, Minnesota. Then you get the Military Bowl. Both agree Maryland's going to be part of it, but differ on opponents. Mark feels it'll be Iowa State, while Brad feels it'll be Utah. Then you got the Holiday Bowl. They differ on matchups there. Mark feels it'll be TCU Stanford, while Brad feels it'll be Baylor Arizona State. You got the Belk Bowl next. Both agree Cincinnati will be a part of that, but differ on opponents. Mark feels it'll be Miami, Cincinnati. Brad feels North Carolina State, Cincinnati. Then you got the Independence Bowl. Differ on matchups there. Mark feels it'll be Georgia Tech, San Diego State. Brad feels it'll be Duke, Missouri. Then you got the Russell Athletic Bowl, formerly the Champ Sports Bowl. And they differ on matchups there. Mark feels it'll be North Carolina State, Louisville. Brad Edwards feels it'll be Miami, Florida against Rutgers. And they differ on matchups on the game matchup here with the Mighty Key Car Care Bowl. Mark feels that it'll be Iowa and Oklahoma State. Brad feels it'll be Northwestern, TCU. Then you got the Armed Forces Bowl. Both feel Air Force. Both feel Air Force will take part in the Armed Forces Bowl, but differ on the opponent for Air Force. Mark feels Houston's going to face Air Force. Brad feels it'll be Tulsa. Both agree that the Pinstripe Bowl, the New Era Pinstripe Bowl, will have Texas Tech, but differ on the opponent. Mark feels Syracuse will take on Texas Tech. Brad feels it'll be Connecticut. It's good. Then you got the Kraft Hungo Bowl. The Kraft Bite Hungo Bowl. Both agree UCLA will be in it, but differ on the opponent. Mark feels Navy will face UCLA. Brad feels Iowa State will face UCLA. The Alamo Bowl. Both agree Oregon State will be in it, but differ on the opponent. Mark feels it'll be Texas against Oregon State. Brad feels it'll be Oklahoma State against Oregon State. Then you got the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl, in which I believe my sister's going to be working that day, seeing as though that's her company's bowl game. They differ on the matchups here. Mark feels it'll be Baylor, Northwestern. Brad feels it'll be Texas, Purdue. Then you got the Music City Bowl. Mark feels it'll be Duke versus Tennessee. Well, Brad feels it'll be Georgia Tech versus Vanderbilt. Then you got the Sun Bowl. Both agree Virginia Tech will be in that, but differ on opponents. Mark feels Arizona State will face Va-Tech, while Brad feels Stanford will face Va-Tech. Then you got the Liberty Bowl. Both differ on the game matchup there. You got Mark, who feels Tulsa versus Western Kentucky will be the matchup. Well, you got Brad feeling that UCF, Central Florida, and Texas A&M will be the matchup. Then you have them both agreeing on the Chick-fil-A Bowl. Both agree that it'll be Clemson and Mississippi State. Then you got the Gator Bowl. they differ on matchups there. They differ on the matchup there. Mark feels the matchup will be Wisconsin and Texas A&M. Well, Brad feels it'll be Michigan State, Tennessee. Then you got the Outback. Okay, wait a minute, hold on. Then you got the Ticket City Bowl. The Ticket City Bowl. And again, they differ on opponents here. Or differ on the game matchup here. The Ticket City Bowl, Mark sees as the matchup being Purdue and Kent State. Well, Brad Edwards feels it'll be Iowa, SMU. Then you got the Outback Bowl. Both agree that Georgia will be in that, but differ on the opponent. Mark feels that the matchup will be Michigan State versus Georgia. Well, Brad Edwards feels it'll be Wisconsin versus Georgia. Then you got the Capital One Bowl. You got the Capital One Bowl, and they both agree that Florida will be in that bowl game, but differ on Florida's opponent. Mark feels that it'll be Nebraska against Florida, while Brad feels it'll be Michigan and Florida. Then you get into some of the BCS games, like the Rose Bowl. Both agree USC will be in the Rose Bowl, but differ on their opponents. Mark feels USC will face Michigan. Brad Edwards feels it'll be USC versus Nebraska. Then you got the Orange Bowl. Both agree Florida State will be in it, but differ on the opponents. Mark feels Rutgers will face Florida State, while Brad Edwards feels it'll be Louisville. Then you got the Sugar Bowl. Both agree on the matchup. Both agree it'll be South Carolina versus Kansas State. Then you got the Fiesta Bowl. Both agree on the matchup. West Virginia versus Notre Dame. Then you got the Cotton Bowl. Both agree on the matchup. You got Oklahoma versus LSU in the Cotton Bowl. And now that was a non-BCS, as you know. Then you got the BBVA Compass Bowl. They differ on the matchup there. Mark feels Connecticut will take on Arkansas, while Brad feels it'll be Temple and Ole Miss. Then you got the GoDaddy.com Bowl. Both agree Toledo will be a part of that, but differ on Toledo's opponent. Mark feels Louisiana Lafayette. Brad says Western Kentucky. And then you got the National Championship, in which both agree will be Alabama, Oregon. Now, you got to remember, these are just projections from this previous week, from this past week. Basically, projections on saying, basically the projections, and this is basically ESPN's way of saying, or some of the analysts saying, this is what they feel the bowl matchups and the BCS matchups would be if the season was to end now. If the season had ended this past weekend, to them, this is what the bowl season and the BCS games would be like. These are who would be playing in each of the bowl games and each of the BCS games. And it's only projecting after half of the season is done. So remember, this could all change. But I want your opinion. I'll provide the link down below so you guys can read it yourself. What do you think? Do you agree with some of the matchups as of right now, or do you think a lot will change? Let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. Video responses are greatly appreciated, but let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Remember though, this is just projection as of this past weekend. In other words, like I said, and I know I'm repeating myself, this is just the ESPN analysts, these two analysts' way of looking at if the season was to end last weekend, or had ended last weekend, that this is how they see the bowl matchups, all the bowl matchups, including the BCS bowl games, being set up and what teams and schools would be in them. So let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. Video responses are appreciated, and I'll talk to you all later.